Well, welcome to day 17th, Friday, September 16, Flagstaff to Kingman, Arizona. The trip's supposed to be 166 miles, but of course when you travel this way and that way and circle around and do a few dipsy doodles, you always end up with a few extra miles on your day. Anyways, the first place we're stopping at is Williams, Arizona. Williams is the last Route 66 town to be bypassed by the Interstate 40 that was created. And Williams, which is a population currently of about 2,800 people, held out until the bitter end, waging court battle after court battle apparently, before finally surrendering on October 13th, 1984. And despite the town's long opposition, in the end, Williams gave in gracefully, going so far as to hold a celebration come wake for the old road, highlighted by a performance atop a new freeway overpass by none other than Mr. Route 66 himself, Bobby Get Your Kicks Troop. Williams today is primarily a gateway to the Grand Canyon, but it also takes full tourist advantage of its Route 66 heritage. The downtown streets, and as you can see here, it's one way. Well, it's one way both ways, and you end up doing this loop before you can carry on going west. The only way to see the city is to come in on the north side and then turn and go back on the south side. And then you come back around again and head back out, going west. While you're going through, the downtown streets sort of have a lot of street lamps. They're period type, and there's every other store sells a variety of 66 souvenirs, making the town much more than a pit stop for Grand Canyon bound travelers. But what I found interesting is as you're traveling through the town and you're going from west to east on the other one-way half of the Route 66 loop, the prices at the stores start out like a hat. An example of a hat would be $24. By the time you get the end stores, the end gift stores on the eastbound route, your prices on hats drop down to $7. So if you're ever going down that way, make sure that you don't do your buying at the front of the street. When you first enter into Kingman, coming from the west, or if you're coming from the east after you circle around and then start coming down the west loop, because that's where all the stores are, wait until you finish going through before you go buying anything. The highway was pretty good going through this area. They'd obviously fixed it up, and of course Williams, being the Grand Canyon stop, is where you catch the train. It's the Grand Canyon Railway, and it's a restored vintage set of rail cars, etc. And the round trip costs around $70, which whistles and steams its way north to the canyon every morning, taking roughly 2 hours each way. It's well worth the trip. Anyone that takes it will enjoy themselves. Here you can see we're early in the morning, so there wasn't that many people that had actually been traveling around the city. On the right hand side here is the Cruiser 66 diner with all of the smoke coming off of it. I'll be pulling in there. Ingrid and I actually went inside the building and inside the building there's a gift shop as well, and that's where I was saying some of the prices that we saw were just phenomenal. Like, there were huge dollars on shirts and flags and signage and stuff like that. Kind of strange that they would try to nail you, because eventually someone's going to say, well, I want my money back, and then try to return the product, because all of the stores are within about a 10 block 15 block radius. So if you're parked, you're bound to be coming walking back here. Most of the places were reasonably priced. Lots of food areas to stop and get a little something to eat. All of the people were friendly. Everybody helped us if we were looking for a place or looking for a specific item. They would send us on our way. There was antique stores. There was even a pawn shop. Some of the hotels and motels had prices anywhere from $26 advertised up to the $100 and some odd dollars for the fancier places. Town was clean. I think you could probably spend a couple of hours wandering from shop to shop and having something to eat and just enjoying the place. It seemed like a really nice community. And as you're seeing, as we're driving down the road here, there's spots galore. If you arrive earlier in the morning, you don't have any problems. I think we came in somewhere in around the 9 to 10 o'clock timeline. Here we are passing one of the last cafes on the eastbound stretch. Traditional travel lodge on the right hand side. If you're looking for like just a slice of pie and a cup of coffee, or simply appreciate good food and a warm welcome, you could probably try the Pine Country Restaurant. It's on 107 North Grand Canyon Boulevard, and they serve breakfast, lunch, dinner, famous fresh pies near the train station. There's also the Rod Steakhouse, which we passed earlier. Here we are turning and heading west again on the business route. And if you had a place you wanted to stay, there's a lot of different places you can stay. Because of the nearby Grand Canyon, there's a couple of old motor court motels. There's one disguised as an Econo Lodge. It's at 302 East Route 66. I took a look at it as we were going by, and it was reasonably priced, $90 and up. Another one was the Roadway Inn, which we passed earlier, and that one was running around 110 and up, and the lodge on Route 66 on the east version, which we just passed, was $100 and up. Or you can look into the historic Harvey House Hotel, which is now known as the Grand Canyon Railway Hotel. It's $170 and up. Very plush. Overnight, it's ideal for passengers taking the vintage train to the Grand Canyon if you want to have a little upscale stay. Here we are exiting, and then we coming down now. At this point, we're coming into a place called Ash Fork. And Ash Fork got its start when the Atlantic and Pacific Railroad, later known as the Santa Fe Railroad, pushed through back in 1882. The local flagstone, which is available readily for the townsfolk, was quarried for the railroad to build bridges, and private industry began in this area, shipping stone for public buildings, churches, and office buildings by rail all over. And during its earliest days, Ash Fork was mostly home to railroaders and cowboys. There was no real official law and order. They basically just did things their own way with vigilante committees, is what I've been told. And there's an ash tree in town that's still in existence, and apparently several are said to have been hanged from it. In 1893, the entire town of Ash Fork burned to the ground. The stone industry remained profitable, the stones of which were used to rebuild much of the town. But before long, citizens proclaimed the town as the flagstone capital of the world, trying to get some notoriety and some revenues going again. You see, we're just pulling up here by Zettler's gift store. And Zettler's was started about 4 years ago or 5 years ago by the current owner. And it's a nice little store. Ingrid and I went in, bought a couple of hats there. There was another large fire known locally as the Big Fire that devastated the community on November 20th, 1977, and it destroyed most of the town businesses. The I-40 was also being built, which with the exception of the stretch between Ash Fork and Kingman, where Route 66 took a more northerly, less direct route, it bypassed them. And bypassing the community was yet another blow to another local economy, and they've never really fully recovered. Today, Ash Fork has a small population. It's supported by 5 flagstone yards, which you've seen as we've been moving through the town, ranching, mining, and a new generation of Route 66 travelers. People like me going through, spending money. It continues to serve as the main thoroughfare for their town, and now is known as Park Avenue. A few historic buildings and some old railroad company houses can be seen along this portion of pavement. Doesn't really have a lot of stopping points yet, but they're trying hard to build it and pull it back together. I wish them luck. See, there's the flagstone on the right-hand side. Little motel on the left-hand side, $26 a night, or $29 a night, pardon me. And then basically we go off of the Route 66 and back up onto the I-40 to carry on. And a little few miles further we get into Seligman, Arizona. This is the city limits of Seligman, Arizona, and coming up is some Burma Shave signs. There was Burma Shave signs all down Route 66, and I thought it was appropriate to stick one set of them in at least. You have to have one set of them. We all tried to take pictures as we're driving by, but you're just going too fast to get the pictures. But I've inserted some text so that you can see what it says starting right now. Here we'll be turning left and heading down the road. A short distance is the entrance to the town. On the left side of the entrance, once we get in, one of the first buildings is Delgadillo's Snowcap Drive-In restaurant. It's a historic eatery and roadside attraction located along former Route 66. And the drive-in was built, because this is the true Route 66 route. It's not the original road by any stretch of the imagination. The drive-in was built in 1953 by Juan Delgadillo. He's the brother of Angel Delgadillo, who owns the store next to it. And he was a bit of a character. To bring attention to the restaurant, Delgadillo sliced the roof off of a 36 Chevy hardtop, adorned the automobile with paint, horns, and various automotive emblems, and even an artificial Christmas tree in the rear of the car. Delgadillo's flair for showmanship extended to his menu, which still features such choices as, and I noticed this on the menu when we were there, cheeseburger with cheese and dead chicken. And his sense of humor is evident in the garden out the back, with its collection of old automobiles and quiche in general. The humorous approach extends also to the building itself. Hand-painted signs in the parking area warn drivers that they are parking at their own risk. A neon sign in the window informs patrons, "Sorry, we're open." The door that leads to the counter has 2 knobs, one on the right and one on the left. The knob on the right is a dummy, and everybody always reaches for it. The one on the left actually opens the door. Delgadillo continued his humorous approach by bantering with his patrons over their choices of food, asking, for example, if they wanted cheese on their cheeseburgers. Well, a little tidbit here too. While researching the history of Route 66, the 2006 Disney Pixar motion picture Cars, John Lasseter met with Delgadillo's brother, Seligman barber Angel that I mentioned earlier, and basically after talking with the two brothers, that's how some of the changes to the Cars movie got made, and both brothers are acknowledged in the film credits. Since Delgadillo's death in 2004, the Snow Cap restaurant has been run by his daughter Cecilia and son John. They work the counter, and they still do things the same old playful manner. And they did it to Kevin and I when we ordered our meals as well as we were going through. The Angel Delgadillo gift shop is right beside them. It's got the Texaco sign. You'll see it as we come down, heading east on the main drag. You'll note that it's on the right-hand side. And for over 50 years, Angel used Route 666. Route 66 is the main thoroughfare. He didn't use it, but he was on the main thoroughfare for most of those 50 years, and he ran a barber shop. On September 22nd, 1978, the newly constructed Interstate 40 bypassed Seligman, same as it did in Ash Fork, and replaced the section of Route 66 that had brought the traffic of thousands of cars through town on a daily basis. Imagine the financial impact on the businesses. The livelihood of those businesses basically disappeared in almost one day, literally. All the travelers who had once stopped to eat, get fuel, and stay the night were now quickly driving by just 2 miles south of Seligman. And for 10 long years, the residents of Seligman learned to live on very little. Businesses closed, townspeople moved, buildings were abandoned. Angel Delgadillo, the barber and proprietor of Delgadillo Barber Shop and Pool Hall, finally said, enough is enough. And in an effort to improve the economy, he arranged a meeting of representatives from Route 66 towns in Arizona to organize and group to make Old Route 66 a historic highway. At the meeting of that became the first meeting of the historic Route 66 Association of Arizona, and Angel was the president. This was the first 66 Preservation Society ever formed, and Angel's Barbershop Pool Hall housed the first headquarters for the grassroots organization. It was a really interesting, nostalgic store to go through. Really enjoyed it. Him and his wife, Velma, just started selling a few oddball items here and there, and it established itself as the first gift shop, and little did they know it was to come. It just blossomed and blossomed and blossomed. Today, Angel is 90, and I got a piece of information recently that said that he'd passed away in June, but I can't find any confirmation of it. His daughters Myrna and Clarissa's husband Mauricio were all there in the store when we were going through the store, and they all helped to manage the shop and carry on Angel's tradition of welcoming travelers with small-town American hospital. And what I found really good, really special, really spectacular was that everything they sell is made in America. Bringing the jobs back to America is just as much about making sure they get kept in America, and selling only U.S. made goods is a smart move on their part. I wish that people in Canada could learn to do that as well. Anyway, so we're on our loop back out again now, and I think there's the Roadkill Cafe here on the right-hand side, gas station on the left, a couple of motels, etc. But basically, that's all she wrote. Oh, and a U-Haul. Of course, you've got to have a U-Haul in every city with over 1,500 people. There's Cubby standing on the side of the road with his car top down, and I don't know what him and Judy are doing, but they waved and said everything's okay, just the way that they were waving. So we headed on to Kingman. And somehow they got there before us, yet I passed them. Don't know what the scoop is with that. Here we are coming into Kingman, and the Travotore Hotel, El Travotore, is on the left-hand side here. Interesting place. Had rooms named after famous people like John Wayne and various other actors, etc., from the period in time. We got booked in to the John Wayne room, and this was our home for 2 nights, and then we took off to the Dam Bar restaurant just down the road for a good meal, and then called it a day. We were done. We'd had it. Bring out the cold beer. Oh, and a wine for your loved ones.